Okay, so today we're going to work through the pool house assignment, and to start with we're going to get a rectangle tool, so we can type R for rectangle, or just click on the icon. Next we're going to click, release, and drag our mouse out. We're going to type in, from our axes, we're going to type in 30 feet, comma, 40 feet, enter. There we go. Next, push-pull, so P for push-pull, click on that base, let go, drag it up, and we're going to type 20 feet. Now that we've got that made, going to the right side here, the long side at the top, we're going to use our eraser tool, and we're going to click right on that corner to delete the two sidewalls and the roof so we can see what's inside this building. Next up, the instructions don't say to do this, but this is an easier way to do it. Get your tape measure tool, create a guide. Based off the base wall, we're going to go up 10 feet, which is halfway. The other option you could do when making that is, if you know it's halfway, you could just go to the midpoint. Okay, from there, I'm going to decide, well, you know what, I kind of want my floor to come out about that far. And make another guideline. I'm kind of going unnecessary with the guidelines, but it makes it a little bit faster. I'll make a rectangle now, fills in this space. And there's our floor. Now, since those guidelines might kind of be in the way for me, I'm just going to go and I'm going to turn those off. So view, uncheck the guides, and they're gone. Now, next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to get my rectangle tool again. I'm going to draw a space for the pool. So the pool just needs to be somewhere about there, similar to your instructions. And then I'm going to grab my offset tool. So the offset tool is pretty neat. And if you don't have this toolbar up, make sure that you go to Views, Toolbars, and then you're going to check off the large tool set. I also like to use the Views toolbar. Okay, so we're going to use our offset tool. We're going to go in, and you can make it whatever you want. I like nice even numbers, so I'm going to go 1 foot in from that, and that's going to have 1 foot thick walls in my pool. Now this is kind of the tricky part. The tricky part is, if you follow the instructions, it'll work, but you have to be careful when following them. I kind of like to go ahead and pick my tile or whatever it might be that I want to use for my pool and paint the walls and the floor that color. We're going to get our push-pull tool again. I'm going to hit Control. You see that little plus symbol you get next to the push-pull tool. That means that we're going to leave a bottom to this. We're not going to pull the bottom up with it. Okay, so there we go. I'm going to pull it up to the height of the walls that I want. And if you want to see what I mean, see it's filled right in. It's not hollowed out. So then we're going to get our push-pull again. And I'm going to click on the floor of the pool. And I want it to be a fairly deep pool. So I'm going to go quite a ways down. And let's go 10 feet from where it was at. And there we go. Next then, we're going to get our push-pull tool again, and we're going to hit Control again because we want to copy the floor up to create a water level. So I'm going to have my water level pretty high. And get your paint tool for your water. So we're going to go into our water material. And you can use these other ones, but they don't show up very well. So I prefer if you use the water pool light. Then you can see the tile all the way through it. And it's a see-through water. The other ones aren't see-through. One minor annoyance is just seeing that line there, but we can ignore that. Okay, next up, what we want to do is, I'm going to suggest, but you don't have to, you can actually pull this floor up a little bit to copy it up. And I'm going to copy that up, even just 2 inches. Gives it a little bit of a depth. It's not two-dimensional then. And you'll see why later on. If you did do it that way, actually you can see it right here, where there's lines that'll show up. If you make your steps up through the house, you're going to see where those steps are. That's just a little petty annoyance. So same thing here. We could have done this even before we made our floor. We didn't. So I'm just going to do the best I can to fix that. I'm going to go 2 inches, enter. And actually, if you just double click now, you can redo that same push-pull. Normally, it didn't work for me. So I'm going to go again. I'm going to line it up with this face. Perfect. Okay. same on this side. So push, pull. 2 inches, enter, and done. Okay, the next part then we're going to do is we're going to start working on our steps. So our steps, I find it easiest to go with your zoom tool, right click on zoom window, and we're going to zoom in on this area right here. Get our rectangle tool. We're going to make a rectangle that's 12 inches, comma 2 inches, enter, and there's our step. So I'm going to select all parts of the step first by drawing a box around it. It then tells us we want to make that a component. So make component, you can also type in G is your shortcut, I believe, and we're going to just call that a step. We're going to make sure that it says replace selection of component. Okay. Next thing, I find that this is kind of high for a first step of the stairs, so I'm just going to move this down a little bit. Make sure it says on face when you place it, and I think that's about right. Next, we're going to edit the component. So we get our select tool, we're going to double click on it, or you could right click and say edit component. Get our push pull tool, click on that face. We're going to drag that out so that it is 4 feet long. Close the component next. So get your select tool, click off to the side, and you're no longer editing it. Orbit, and I'm going to copy this. Now the instructions say to use 9 steps in between, but I found that's pretty wide steps then. You have to be a big stepper and not fall through the holes. So next, when we copy, we hit our move tool, hit control on your keyboard, and you get that little plus symbol next to it, and that means you're copying, it's not moving it. And then what we're going to do is we're going to place it on the face close to the step. Now if you didn't click on it right where the step meets the wall, you're going to have steps going into the wall. Now don't type anything else. If you type anything else, if you switch tools, it messes up this system, and this is called an array. So the array has to all be done at once. So we're going to go, after we've copied, we're going to go divide, and I want 14 steps in between, or 13 steps in between, so I'm going to go 14. So divide 14, enter. And then they all fill in, and they'll all be perfectly evenly spaced apart. And I can just double check quick. Yeah, that looks like a good amount of steps and no big spaces between for somebody to fall through. Now we're going to select any one of these steps. Doesn't matter which one. Since they're components, any change we make to one is going to make change to them all. Also going to get my zoom tool, Z for shortcut, and a zoom window, and I'm going to zoom in on this step. Ooh, that's a little bit too much. There we go, orbit up a little, perfect. And we're going to get our pencil tool, which is our L for line tool. Not right at the corner, but near the corner. We're going to click. We're going to go straight vertical. Oops, that was a mistake. Click, go straight vertical, and you know it's vertical when it changes to the vertical axis color. On mine it's green, some of you might be blue. And we're going to type in 3 feet. Enter. And what's cool about components is that you see it changes them all. So I'm going to go back to my line tool, L for short, and I'm going to click across the top of the next line. I'm going to finish that by hitting escape to close that component, or close that tool. And then I can go with any one of these shapes, but the book says circle, so let's go with that. And I'm going to zoom in again on the bottom of that circle. We're going to draw a circle using that as our center point. So let's go at 2-inch radius, which would be a 4-inch post. That's a pretty big post, but let's go with that. Oops, that was a mistake. Making a few of those. Zoom window, go in again. Perfect. Next it says use your follow me tool, and there's a way through the menus you can do that, or if you have a large tool set, just click on this icon, go up, over, and click again. And then that fills it all in. While we're here, we could paint those if we want. So if we wanted to have a colored railing, we could do that. I'm going to go with, let's go with that color. You could have paint, you could have metal, you could have wood. It's your call. When we could have done the same thing with we can do the same thing with our steps as well. So I'm going to go with, let's go with a stone maybe a marble step. And if we orbit around, should be able to keep on rolling with that. Beautiful. Okay, and then to close component, select tool, click off to the side. Next part that you're going to see is that the stairs lead to nowhere. Well, you don't want to run into the bottom of a floor, so we're going to now make a hole for the steps. And this one takes a little bit of guesswork, unless you did some other things before. Now I can see right there is the top step, so I'm going to just orbit where I can see that. I could also go to my top view here. It's a little bit off. And I'm going to get my rectangle tool again, and I'm just going to draw a rectangle from here and across, and let's try that. Next, I'm going to select that space, and I'm going to delete it. And actually, because I made my floor, if you only made your floor 2D, so no thickness to it, then that would totally work fine. If you didn't, if you were like me and you gave some thickness to it, get your push-pull, push it down until it says on face, and now that's gone. Okay, so the next part then is we're going to zoom out, and let's have a look. Is that going to work for our steps? I think that is. All right. The next tricky part that we need to do is we're going to work on our diving board and our railing. The diving board's fairly simple, but we'll go through that. So diving board, we're going to create a rectangle about the size that we would want for the width of our diving board. So I'm going to go 2 feet by 2 feet. Doesn't have to be an exact. There again, it's just something that I like to do. Click on that. I'm going to drag that up. Oh, maybe let's go 1 foot up. And now I'm going to hit Control again, and I'm going to pull that up the thickness that I want for the diving board. Well, the diving boards are usually only about 1 inch or 2 thick, so I'm just going to go 1.5 inches, enter. And then I'm going to just get my push-pull again without the plus symbol, so I hit Control to get rid of that. And I'm going to pull this out however far I think I need. Now, one thing to be cautious of is you'll want to check to make sure that you're not going to miss the mark of your pool by having your diving board extended over the edge. So it looks like we should hit the pool. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to make the railing, and this is the part where most people struggle, simply because the instructions don't really go through it. They assume that you now know how to make railings all the time, and this one's a little different than the last. So near this corner, I'm going to create a vertical line. In this case, it's blue. And there again, I'm going to go 3 feet up for a railing. And now this is where it gets a little different. Now I'm going to make my circle at the base. And like I said, I can do a different shape. And I guess just to show you all, I'm going to make a triangle. So I'm going to go with polygon. It's asking me down in the right corner here how many sides. So I'm going to go with 3. Enter. You see it makes a triangle then. And then I'm going to drag that out. My radius being, let's go with 2.5 inches. Enter. Now this is the trickier part. We need to select the line and all the parts of that triangle. So I'm going to zoom right in. And by all the parts, I mean all the sides and including the middle. So spacebar to get my select tool again. I'm going to hold Control. I'm going to click, drag, and there we go. Make component. We're going to call this one a post. Great. Now, since we have this as a component, we're now going to copy this all the way over to the end. So remember, move tool, hit Control to copy, you get the plus symbol, and we want to click on it right on the base. So I'm going to click on it and drag it all the way over to the end. And sometimes if you go like this, it should move itself over, but yeah, computers can be kind of tricky sometimes. So instead I'm going to go back to my hand tool. Now if you go to use any of your view tools here, after using one of your other tools, it's not going to change. You're not going to lose that copying set. So here we go. I'm going to place it approximately close to the end. Not right on the end, but close to the end. And then we're making an array, so we don't want to click on anything. So I'm going to divide this space by, oh, let's try 30. So we're going to have 29 posts in between. Looks about right. Next thing we're going to do now is we're going to choose any one of these to edit. So it doesn't matter, so let's just go with this guy. Double click on it to edit it, right click, edit component, doesn't matter. I'm going to get my line tool out again, L for shortcut, click across to the next one, then get my follow me tool. I'm going to pull that up and over, same as we did with the other stairs, and then get my space bar, take my select tool, and close the component. Now, we could have painted that as well right now. And if you're seeing what I'm seeing, we've got a post that's sticking through the wall. One easy way to fix that, we could either rotate that one, but since we're doing triangles, that might show up. Easier way then, click on that one, right click, and we're going to make this one unique. It means it's going to be different than the rest. So now any changes we make to this one aren't going to change the other ones. I'm going to orbit around, and I'm just going to push the end of this one in to, let's make it even with the wall. Actually, let's go back another, I think our walls are 2 inches thick. Let's go back 2 inches, and then I'm going to just simply delete this line. So click on the delete key, or you could use your eraser. There we go. So now it's perfectly even, or close to it, I guess, with that wall. And beautiful. Hit our spacebar, close that component now. We're then going to move on over. As you can see, there's a problem with the diving board. No, you can't dive. Not safely anyway. Knowing me, I'd try to jump over that and then I'd biff it and hit my face off the pool. So easiest way to fix this problem is I'm going to get my select tool. I'm going to click on the ones that are blocking that, and I held control to select more than one. And I'm going to hit the delete key on the keyboard. Not the backspace, but the delete key. So there we go. Now there's one more issue here if you can't see. This one right here. So there again, we could rotate it, or we could do like we did on the other one, make it unique, push that end back, and that's honestly the easiest way, and probably the most attractive way of doing it. So we're going to try that again. We're going to get a select tool. We're then going to right click, make that one unique. We're going to double click to edit it, or right click, edit component. Push the end of this one back in. I'm going to make it even with that edge. Get my select tool, click on that line, hit delete. Close the component, and there we go. Okay, so that's honestly the hardest part out of this whole assignment. I have asked you guys to add a window, add a door, add a kitchen, add a bedroom, add a bathroom, add some steps to the pool, and it does actually tell you to add steps to the pool. There's different ways to do it. The easiest way is simply to create a rectangle down here, like so. Make a line or two. I'm just going to go like that. Make another line. It doesn't have to be exact, but the fancier the better. I have had some students that have made steps similar to the ones that are going up the side of the wall, and that would be even better yet. But whatever you need to do just to make some steps, because we need to get into the pool. Getting out of the pool may be a different story. If you want to figure out a way to do that, then be my guest. But I'm not going to make you. Ideally, we'd also want to paint that with the same tile that we had. Now, how do we know? Maybe we've forgotten. Click on this home button in materials. It's going to show us the materials that we have used in this project. So we've used a square glass tile. Click on that, and we can just paint away like so. Being careful, of course, that the other side would still need to be painted. Components now. So if you're adding a kitchen or bathroom, you can go into the components, 3D warehouse, and go kitchen, search. Some of these files are fairly big, so it'll take a little while. And let's say, yeah, let's go with this one. So we just click on that, drag it on over, come on. Okay. Maybe I should get my select tool first. Click on that, come on, there we go. You can see it takes a bit to load, even on some faster internet at home here, as opposed to at the school. And come on, come on, come on. And, oh, there it is. Okay, so where you have your kitchen, I don't really care. Most people put it on the lower floor. Doesn't matter to me. Now I place it. The easiest thing to do is just to place it, and then from there we're going to rotate it, resize it as we need, so on. Part of it might be in the wall right now, so what I might want to do is just move it out a bit. I'm going to rotate it, so rotate tool, make sure it shows on the blue axis if you want to turn it this direction. I think I want to put it in that wall, so I'm going to rotate it 90 degrees, 90, enter, and then I'm going to move it out farther. So, oh, and you see some of it's going into the floor, so that's not very cool. Let's click on that. I'm going to hit the up arrow so it moves only vertical. Now I can access that. I want it right in that, perfectly in that corner. This takes a little bit of playing around with to get good at it, but I'm going to zoom in on this back corner. Get my move tool, click right on that corner. And we're going to keep going. Come on, little guy. I'm going to pan over to where I can, in orbit, to where I can see that corner. And there it is. Back to my move tool. And this is one of the things I'm not a big fan of. We had on face. So we have on face there. On face, on face. Place. Let's see how that looks. Oh, we're a little high. Like I said, this will take a little bit of time, a little bit of playing around with. One of my pet peeves is Sketchup. But all in all, for a free program, it works fairly decently. And like so, we are going to get it. Feel free to fast forward this part when you're watching this if you think you understand what I'm trying to do here. Oh man. There. Now I can see that corner. Click. I'm going to drag it down into that corner. There. Okay, let's see how that looks. Perfect. Okay, next we're going to do is we're going to get our select tool. We're going to click over here. There's our cabinets. Now you might be asking, I don't really have room for an island, or maybe I wanted that fridge to be a different color. With components, you can make changes to them. You're not stuck with them. This is something somebody else has designed and allowed you to use by uploading it to the 3D warehouse, which you guys could also be doing. But maybe we would just want to change the countertop color. It really doesn't matter what changes you make to it. Other than that, you see if you select on it, the whole thing is selected. We can't really make changes to it. So we can edit that component. Now it depends how they've designed it. You might need to edit it a few times, because they might have made groups within the component or so on. So there's that countertop. Maybe I want to change that countertop color. I'm going to go back to my materials. Remember, if this default tray goes away, you just go to Window, Default Tray, and Show Tray, and it'll come back again. And what what is this? Ooh, corrugated metal. That's not really going to work too well. Kind of like just a dark colored charcoal for that countertop. Maybe I'll get my select tool and I'll change the other one too, because I'm not a big fan of two-tone countertops. Okay, so there we go. And I'm not sure what's going on with this one, but I'm just going to double click on that countertop. Oh yeah, there's still more groups within groups, so we're going to edit that group. That's just that cabinet. And that's the issue sometimes with using other people's work that they've uploaded, is that it can get to be a little finicky because you don't know necessarily how they did that. So for example, if we tried to paint the floor, or sorry, the cabinet color, go to wood, maybe we'll go with this gray wood. See, and some of this might paint, but not all of it. So then it gets to be a little tricky. If they would have made all the cabinets at once, it'd be fairly simple. So if you make a mistake, you can always go back and undo, Alt Backspace or Control Z. And so that's what I just did. I'm going to close the component now, hit my space bar, and click off to the side. Maybe I decide, you know what, this kitchen looks too small for this space, or maybe it's too long because it's blocking my stairway. I can scale this. So if I wanted to just make it a little bit more narrower, I'm going to grab onto this point right here and drag it in and kind of squish everything up a bit. So we could do that. If we wanted to make it bigger, we'd grab it at the corners. Okay, so there we go. Add away your furniture, make everything awesome, add wallpaper, add a garage if you want, something else, make it your own. And that's the pool house. One more thing I guess too that I often will ask for is for showing your sizes. So right here is your dimension tool. We're going to click. We're going to go straight vertical, and we're going to drag this out. It's going to show us the height of the building. And I was a little bit off because I was showing the outside, but that's fine as long as it's close to 30 feet wide. And it just wants to go sideways on me, of course. I'm trying to finish up, so I'm just going to try that again. There we go, 30 feet up, and then there to there, 40 feet up. Beautiful. And that is the pool house.